You open the fridge, in goes a tomato, maybe a loaf of bread, even olive oil. Feels right, doesn't it? Cold means fresh, or so we think. But some foods actually lose nutrients, flavor, even become harmful when stored cold. If you're over 50, this mistake can quietly impact your digestion, inflammation, and energy. Let's uncover the 10 everyday foods you should never refrigerate and what to do instead. Stay with me. Number 7 might surprise you. As we get older, digestion gets more sensitive. Yet many of us still store food the same way we did decades ago, by habit, not by science. Here's what's rarely talked about. Cold storage changes food chemistry. It can flatten taste, ruin texture, and reduce valuable nutrients like antioxidants. So, if your tomatoes taste bland or your bread goes stale fast, it might not be your taste buds. It might be your fridge. Let's look at the mistakes most people don't realize they're making. Mistake number 1, putting everything in the fridge. Cold means fresh. It's the most common habit, and the most misunderstood. For decades, we've been told the fridge keeps food safe and fresh. So, we instinctively place everything inside, from tomatoes to bread to olive oil. But here's the truth. Cold doesn't always mean better. In fact, for certain foods, cold storage disrupts their natural chemistry. Take tomatoes. Cold breaks down their cell walls, leaving them mealy and bland. Bread. It stales faster in cold air than on your counter. And olive oil. Refrigeration can harden and degrade its antioxidant power. As we age, our digestive system becomes more sensitive, and the nutrient loss caused by improper storage can quietly affect inflammation, heart health, and energy. Yet most people never question it because it's what they've always done. Are there other foods you might be storing wrong without realizing it? Let's look deeper. Mistake number 2, refrigerating fruits that need to ripen naturally. You bring home bananas, avocados, even peaches, and straight into the fridge they go. It feels like the responsible thing to do, right? But here's the surprising part. Cold air doesn't just slow ripening, it can completely halt it. And worse, it can damage the internal structure of the fruit. Bananas turn black on the outside, mushy on the inside. Avocados harden, then go bad before they ever ripen properly. Peaches lose their sweet aroma and develop a grainy texture. Why does this matter as we age? Because ripe fruit delivers powerful enzymes, fiber, and antioxidants, all of which support digestion, immunity, and cellular repair. But when fruit is chilled too early, its natural nutritional cascade is interrupted. And if your energy feels low or your digestion sluggish, this silent mistake might be part of the reason. So, what's the better way to store these fruits? And which ones should never see the inside of a fridge? That's coming up next. Mistake number 3, storing cooking oils in the fridge. You may think putting olive oil or coconut oil in the fridge keeps them fresh, but for most oils, that's a mistake. Cold temperatures don't just solidify healthy fats. They can also damage the oil's structure, reduce nutrient availability, and even create oxidation risks when reheated. Extra virgin olive oil, for example, contains delicate polyphenols, powerful compounds that protect your heart and lower inflammation. But once chilled and reheated repeatedly, those antioxidants begin to degrade, the oil turns cloudy, its aroma weakens, and the health benefits quietly fade. For older adults, this matters, because oils like olive and flaxseed are often used for their anti-inflammatory and cardiovascular benefits. When those are lost, it's not just about taste. It's about missing out on protection your body needs more than ever. Still storing your oils in the fridge? Let's talk about where they really belong, and which other healthy foods don't do well in the cold. 10 foods you should never refrigerate. 1. Tomatoes. You've probably done it for years, bought fresh tomatoes, and placed them right into the fridge. But here's what most people don't realize. Cold air ruins the texture and taste of tomatoes. Inside the fridge, their cell walls break down. The result: a mushy bite and watered-down flavor. Even worse, cold temperatures suppress the enzyme activity that gives tomatoes their signature sweetness and antioxidant power, like lycopene, which is linked to better heart health and lower cancer risk. For seniors, lycopene is especially important. It supports healthy circulation, protects skin, and may reduce the risk of prostate issues in men. So, how should you store them? Keep tomatoes at room temperature, out of direct sunlight, on your counter, ideally stem side down. They'll ripen naturally, stay firm longer, and offer more nutrients when eaten raw or lightly cooked. Have you been refrigerating your tomatoes without knowing? Leave a comment. Your story might help someone else fix this small but powerful habit. And 2. Bread. It's one of the biggest misconceptions in American kitchens. Storing bread in the fridge keeps it fresh. In reality, refrigeration speeds up one of bread's worst enemies, stalling. When bread is exposed to cold air, the starches inside begin to crystallize. The result? Dry, stiff slices, even if the loaf looks fine on the outside. For seniors, this matters more than convenience. Stale bread can be harder to chew and digest, especially for those with sensitive gums or slower digestive systems. But what about mold? Yes, mold can be an issue at room temperature, but the best solution isn't cold, it's airtight. Here's what to do instead. Keep your bread in a bread box or cloth bag on the counter for 2 to 3 days. For longer storage, slice it and freeze it. Then toast slices as needed. You'll preserve both texture and nutrients. And enjoy your bread the way it was meant to be eaten. Do you usually keep your bread in the fridge? Drop a comment. And up next, a fruit that completely shuts down when it gets too cold. 3. Garlic is often tossed into the fridge without a second thought. But here's what most people don't realize. Cold storage breaks garlic's rhythm. Garlic is a dry bulb crop. It prefers cool, dark, and dry, but not cold and humid like a fridge. When chilled, garlic starts sprouting early. Its cloves turn rubbery. Its sharp medicinal flavor fades. And over time, it may even develop mold inside the bulb, invisible until you slice it. That's more than just a taste problem. Garlic contains allicin, a natural compound with powerful anti-inflammatory and cardiovascular benefits. But allicin is fragile. Moisture and cold degrade it, which means you're losing the very reason garlic is a staple in heart-healthy diets. So, what's the fix? Store garlic in a breathable container, away from sunlight. A mesh bag, paper sack, or open bowl in your pantry works well. And don't peel it until you're ready to use it. The skin protects its potency. Have you noticed your garlic turning green or rubbery? Leave a quick yes or no in the comments. Your answer might help someone feel less alone. You're not alone, and up next is another kitchen staple that loses its health benefits when it's stored cold. 4. Onions. At first glance, onions seem like a food you could store anywhere. But here's the truth. Putting onions in the fridge is one of the fastest ways to ruin them. Cold, humid air encourages onions to sprout prematurely. Their texture turns soft. Their flavor grows sharp and sour. And worse, the moisture inside your fridge can trigger mold before you even notice it. Why does that matter? Because onions are more than just flavor. They're rich in quercetin, a natural antioxidant linked to reduced inflammation and improved circulation, especially important for aging hearts and joints. But these benefits depend on the onion's freshness. When sprouted or soggy, the nutritional profile drops significantly. So, how should you store them? Keep onions in a cool, dry, well-ventilated area. A basket in your pantry or a hanging mesh bag works perfectly. Never seal them in plastic. They need airflow. And here's one more tip. Keep onions and potatoes apart. When stored together, both spoil faster due to ethylene gas. Have you noticed your onions growing green tails or going mushy? You're not alone, and next, we'll uncover a common oil that actually loses its health benefits in the fridge. 5. Olive oil. It's labeled extra virgin. It's heart healthy. So naturally, many people store it in the fridge to preserve the freshness. But that's a mistake. Refrigerating olive oil causes it to solidify and form waxy crystals. This doesn't just make it harder to pour, it signals that the oil's structure has changed. When olive oil is repeatedly chilled and warmed, its healthy compounds, like polyphenols and oleocanthal, begin to break down. These are the exact nutrients that support brain health, reduce inflammation, and protect your arteries as you age. And once that subtle peppery flavor is gone, so are most of those benefits. So how do you store it properly? Keep your olive oil in a dark glass bottle, tightly sealed, away from heat and light. A pantry or cabinet is ideal. Just don't leave it near your stove. If your oil smells rancid or tastes flat, it's time to toss it. Olive oil is liquid gold, but only when stored right. Have you ever kept yours in the fridge out of habit? Comment below if you're making this change. 6. Honey. It's one of nature's longest-lasting foods. Pure honey can stay safe and edible for decades if you store it right. But here's what many people still do wrong. They put honey in the fridge. Big mistake. Cold temperatures cause honey to crystallize. It becomes gritty, hard to scoop, and loses its smooth texture. While it's still safe to eat, the experience and nutritional impact changes. Raw honey contains natural enzymes, antioxidants, and antimicrobial compounds that support immunity and wound healing, especially valuable for people over 50. But when repeatedly chilled and reheated, those delicate enzymes degrade over time. So, how should you store honey? Keep it in a tightly sealed glass jar at room temperature, away from direct sunlight. A pantry shelf is perfect. If it crystallizes, place the jar in warm water. Never microwave it, to gently restore its texture, and avoid metal lids or containers. Honey's natural acidity can react with certain metals, altering flavor and quality. Have you ever tossed out crystallized honey thinking it went bad? Now you know, it was just cold. Next, we'll tackle a fruit that shuts down its digestive support when kept too cold too soon. 7. Bananas. You've likely done this before. Brought home a bunch of bananas and, without thinking, put them straight into the fridge. It feels like a smart move to keep them from spoiling. But here's what really happens. Cold stops the ripening process. The skin turns black. The fruit becomes dull and loses its creamy texture. And worse, the flavor flattens. That's not just a cosmetic issue. Naturally ripened bananas are rich in dopamine, vitamin B6, and resistant starch, all of which help support mood, digestion, and blood sugar control, especially in adults over 50. Chilling bananas before they ripen interrupts that process. You end up with a banana that looks old, but hasn't even developed its full nutritional value yet. So, what's the fix? Let bananas ripen on the counter. Once they're golden and slightly speckled, you can eat them fresh, or freeze them for smoothies or baking. Never refrigerate unripe bananas, and if you do freeze them, peel them first, and use an airtight container to preserve texture. Did you grow up keeping bananas in the fridge? You're not alone, but it's a habit worth changing. Now you know, it was just cold. Be honest. Do you keep your bananas in the fridge out of habit? Let us know. Sometimes old habits just need a second look. Coming up, a common root vegetable that becomes mildly toxic when stored cold. 8. Potatoes. They seem sturdy. Toss them in the fridge and you assume they'll last longer. But here's the problem. Cold temperatures change the chemistry of potatoes. When chilled, potatoes convert their natural starches into simple sugars, a process called cold-induced sweetening. This might sound harmless, but when these cold-sweetened potatoes are cooked, especially fried or roasted, they can form acrylamide, a potentially harmful compound linked to inflammation and nerve issues. For older adults already managing joint pain, blood sugar, or neuropathy, this quiet chemical shift could make things worse without you even realizing it. And that's not all. Cold, humid environments also increase the risk of sprouting or mold, especially in plastic bags with no airflow. So, what's the smart fix? Store potatoes in a cool, dry, and dark space, like a pantry or cupboard. Keep them in a breathable bag, paper or mesh, not plastic. And keep them far from onions, which release gases that speed spoilage. Check your potatoes regularly for green spots or sprouts. If they've gone soft or started greening, it's time to toss. Have you been keeping your potatoes in the fridge? 9. Coffee beans. You love your morning coffee, so you do what feels right. You refrigerate your coffee beans to keep them fresh. But that cold, humid air, it's doing the opposite. Coffee beans are porous. They easily absorb moisture, odors, and even flavors from nearby foods. Inside the fridge, that means they can pick up scents from onions, leftovers, even last night's takeout. Worse, the fluctuating temperature causes condensation inside the bag or jar, slowly degrading the natural oils that give coffee its aroma and complexity. And for older adults, those rich, full-bodied notes aren't just about pleasure. They stimulate the senses, support mental alertness, and make mornings feel more vibrant. When beans go stale, your brew tastes flat. You use more, but get less. So, what's the better way? Keep whole beans in an airtight container in a cool, dark cupboard, not in the fridge or freezer. Grind only what you need for the day. This small shift preserves antioxidants, flavor, and your morning ritual. Have you ever noticed your coffee losing flavor faster than expected? Next, we'll reveal one last fridge mistake people make with a common spread, and how to store it to preserve both taste and health. 10. Melons, whole, watermelons, cantaloupes, honeydew. Most people buy them whole and pop them straight into the fridge, thinking they're keeping them fresher longer. But here's the truth. Whole melons lose nutrients when stored cold. Before they're cut, these fruits thrive at room temperature. The USDA found that watermelons kept at room temperature retained more lycopene and beta-carotene, antioxidants that protect the eyes, skin, and heart. Chilling a whole melon too early doesn't just dull the sweetness. It slows enzymatic activity and nutrient development, especially in the final stages of ripening. For older adults, that's a missed opportunity. Lycopene, in particular, has been linked to improved circulation and reduced risk of certain cancers. So, what's the fix? Leave whole melons on the counter until they're fully ripe. Once cut, store slices in the fridge in an airtight container and consume within 3 to 4 days. Also, wash the outside before slicing. Bacteria on the rind can transfer inside during cutting, especially if stored cold afterward. Have you been refrigerating your melons before they ripen? Next time, try the counter first, and your fruit may thank you. You don't need to memorize a list to start making better choices. Just notice. Notice what you refrigerate out of habit, and ask, does this really belong here? One small shift, like moving honey to the pantry, can preserve nutrients, flavor, and even your health. It's not about doing everything right. It's about doing one thing better today. If this video made you rethink what's in your fridge, drop a freezing face in the comments. Your small step might inspire someone else to take theirs. And in our next video, we'll expose a healthy habit that may be quietly aging your joints faster than you think. Stay curious, stay healthy. We'll see you there.